We'll call the meeting to order, the April 9, 1919, April 9, 1900, 2019. At this time, we'll have the swearing in of a new board member.
We do it right here, huh?
Don't kill yourself.
Trying to grab you. All my stuff in my library bag.
Okay. Sorry.
Yes, put it there. Right. Okay, Sharice, raise your right hand. Yeah. Okay. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Library Trustee to the best of my ability.
of the office of Library Trustee to the best of my ability.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You'll have to sign, she'll have to sign it, such, we can do that.
Okay, then.
Okay, great. Thank you.
A bunch of writing yet to do.
And before we go any farther, tell us a little bit about, Sherry's from the City Council, but tell us a little bit about yourself, so we know something about you.
From Urbana, went to Urbana schools, graduated in class 79. I just told you my age. Let's see, went away for about 30 years, came back. My father also was politically active and served as alderman for the city of Urbana. My mom was very politically active. She was on Human Relations Commission and all that kind of stuff. And my father passed a couple of years ago, and I'm caregiver for my mom. So that's basically it. Nothing exciting. I did background on Mike and Molly.
I don't know if you met everybody yet. Jane Williams.
Hi.
John, go ahead and introduce yourself.
John Thies.
Yes, and Beth Scheid.
And I'm Chris Shearer.
Michael Weissman.
Barbara Jones.
Okay.
And Barbara Bennett is not here. And is that the only one's missing?
Jeff Band.
Jeff.
Oh, Jeff, yeah, we got two people. Okay, roll call, Becky.
Okay, we kind of just did it with Jane Williams. John.
Here.
Sharif.
Here.
Beth.
Here.
Chris.
Here.
Michael.
Still here.
And Barbara.
Here.
And presenting Beth and Roper. And
A motion here. Okay, are there any additions, corrections, or modifications to the agenda?
Whoops.
Move approval of the agenda.
I have one question. Is doing the, am I in order?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just looking for the item. Are we going to talk today about the bylaws and the term limits? Oh, there's board bylaws draft.
Okay, but if we do change the amendment, the agenda,
Well, yeah, I have some questions about the term limits thing, because I just found out that the Illinois Library Association has written a model. Am I right about this? I think, yeah.
I don't know, but this is
And-
the discussion, so it is on the agenda for discussion? If
It's
that's your
just
question.
discussion, but not voting.
Correct.
What I would like to do is wait until the strategic plan is over, so that if the bylaws if the strategic plan, anything that comes out of that affects the bylaws, we don't have to go back in again.
do I hear a second to that motion?
Second.
And I'm,
Okay, discussion.
that's not,
It is in order. It is in order.
Well, it's only a discussion item. So we're not committing.
right, so we're not
Okay.
voting.
Anyway.
That's what I,
But she's,
Okay.
are you asking to remove the discussion item?
I have no problem discussing it, I just don't want to vote on it. Because I found out from a colleague last week that we were talking about term limits, and that there's a whole model draft out there that I haven't seen.
we can discuss that in the discussion section then.
Okay.
If
Okay.
that will fit.
Okay.
All right.
That's fine.
So I move approval of the agenda.
Second?
Second.
Is there, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Public comments. Do we have any? No. Okay. The presentation. Are there two presentations? No, it's all one, I guess. The archives. Who starts?
Let me please introduce you to two wonderful archives librarians, Sherry Bowser and Donna Martin, who will be
Okay.
presenting on all their fabulous work today. So, thank you for.
So hello, I'm Sherry Bowser, and as obviously I'm an archives librarian. And so I'm going to be talking to you about the digital preservation project that we've been working on for the past 4 years now. I started in 2014, and pretty soon after I started, I participated in the Society of American Archivists Manuscript Repository section, their project Jump In. So basically that's collecting a survey, and I thought that would be a really good way to get my feet wet and to, learn what was in the archives. So, we're used to dealing with paper items, with maps, and with books, and with manuscripts. But digital materials, so like CDs or thumb drives or hard drives, that's something that the profession is still kind of working with. And so they have this jump in initiative, so you just kind of, this idea is we kind of put those off and hide them away. And then this is where we really just kind of, let's just see what's there. So I went in and conducted a survey. Then we kind of presented, I did a presentation at MAC, and it's kind of like, okay, I did the survey, now what? And I worked with a couple of other other repositories in the Midwest, and we kind of talked about what our plans were to do. Took a couple of training, but the real kind of push forward happened in 2018 when one of our volunteers, who was an high school student, Edward Glore, he approached me and was like, I'm taking this class. We have to do a project on digital preservation. We have to survey a collection, create a workflow, create a plan. Can I work with you? And I said, of course you can. So, and he was a great student to work with. He set up his this class project, and then he designed it so that in the summer he could do a practicum with us to implement the plan that him and his team came up with. So that's what happened in the summer. We actually created a digital works, like an ingest station, which I'll show you. And one of the things that he did also was he created a job description for another practicum student to come in. So kind of using that idea, Donna Martin and I created 7 individual practicum descriptions that have been really popular at the high school. So that way we kind of do job descriptions for all the things we could offer at the archives for students, whether it's digital preservation, cataloging, accessions, special collections processing, exhibit curation, things like that. So those the individual descriptions have really been popular. So we currently have a digital preservation practicum student, Sierra Owens, that's working with us right now, and another one of our practicum students, Cindy Tien, approached me. She's also doing this digital preservation class, and she's going to be working with a subset of the project of the collections. So this is what I found in 2015 when I surveyed the collection. So we had a few floppy disks, we had a bunch of CDs, DVDs, we had 1 USB drive at that time, and we had 2 hard drives at the time, and then a number of foreign digital files that were just transferred to us digitally. This right here is a collection, is the News Gazette photograph collection. So you can see that's actually kind of the bulk of our digital collection right now. So the News Gazette switched to digital photography, I believe it was in 2003, about that time frame. So we have their negative collection going back to like 1973 forward, and then switched to digital, and now we have their CDs and photographs as well. So this is our digital media ingest station that we have right here. We have Mac Mini that is there on the bottom, and that's what we're using to work with the files. And then we have on the top, the silver box is a Blu-ray, like DVD player. We have on the top, the very top, the black one is a 3.5-inch floppy, and then right under that is a zip drive. So we can kind of get those more obsolete media, so kind of work with those. So kind of what Sierra's doing right now on our workflow that Ed set up for us is we get them in the end, we do a virus scan on it. We run it through a program called Droid, and that gets some kind of the preservation information. So we're looking for file format, we're looking for checksums, and checksums creates this, it's kind of like a digital fingerprint. So it goes through and it creates a very long string of numbers. And basically what you can tell from that string of numbers is when you look at it, if it transfers or anything like that, if anything happens to those bits in the file, then that number will change. So you can kind of just check and keep an eye on that this file is the file that we initially took in and it hasn't changed or corrupted in any way. Then we create metadata records that has that checksum in it, has a description, has a title for the individual item, individual file. And we're using Dublin Core for metadata, and we're making XML files in Oxygen. And then we store it on our media drive, our dedicated media drive that we have in server. So to date, we have our in-house digital media ingestion station. We've worked with the library IT to increase the archive server space. So right now, that dedicated server that we're talking about has 35 terabytes. And so right now, we're looking at that the archives has about 5 terabytes of information, digital information already. We've processed 25 digital collections, and that's really been since the summer of 2018 till now. We've created over 3,400 metadata item records, and we've worked with 3 high school students. So our next steps is to process that News Gazette photograph collection. That's our big bulk one. And so Cindy and her group, that's what they're going to work on now. They're going to make a workflow for us for processing that large collection. And then we need to create a workflow for running future checksums and format migrations. So once we get these into our system, we just need to make sure that, well, not like PDF's going to go away, but make sure that it's older files, just that we're migrating things into so it can be accessible. And that's
A question.
Mm-hmm.
So with the Gazette, the negative archives,
Mm-hmm.
so you're going to digitize that, and then, is that right?
No, the one that the print negatives, like the actual film, no, we're not planning on. This is the CDs that came to us. So
they're already digital.
They're already digital.
You're taking from digital to digital.
Exactly. Because they're on CDs right now.
Already.
So CDs, of course, can easily get scratched or corrupted. So we thought at one point that CDs would be a preservation medium. Turns out not the case.
So last year.
But isn't the lifespan for CD, gosh, like, it's 20 years?
Yeah, it's not.
And then the magnetization.
So it can be less than that.
Yeah, it could be, they could pitted, so it's more of a priority for.
Disappear.
Right. And so what I like is the fact that, and you're talking about workflow for format migration, so somewhere there's got to be a strategy for future format migration as well. And that's again going to be some time-stamped activity, I'm assuming, that we don't know what the next format migration might
Right,
be. But yeah.
right. It'll just kind of keep making sure that we're checking these. Probably once we get a workflow, we'll actually probably be checking in on them once a year and running those kind of an automatic program to kind of run those checksums just to make sure everything's testing out and that we can access them. And then of course if for some reason word goes away, then we're like, oh, what are we going to change it to next so we can access these files.
Where's it? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, you were first.
I was just going to ask, is there a backup plan in the event that any of your electronics
The server.
fail?
So right now, we'll still have the originals. I mean, we're keeping those.
Okay.
And we'll have the server and we'll have 2 copies, in different places. So right now we have files, our files are on that server and they're on the Mac Mini. So kind of the lots of copies keep stuff safe.
Okay, having a Mac Mini, you might want to get another Mac Mini.
Yes. Yes.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. Yes, we need lots of copies.
Okay.
Where is this all stored, the collections?
The collection stored or the station or?
Where, like, is it in the cloud? Is it where?
Oh, so they're actually it's on the library server right now.
So you created job descriptions for 7 separate positions. And it sounds like you have maybe at most 2 practicum students, and do you envision ever having more than 2 practicum students?
We currently have 3.
Okay, I missed one, okay.
Yeah, so this semester we have 3 right now,
Okay.
that Donica and I both work with. So I have 2 and Donica has 1.
And then we also have 7 volunteers from the iSchool and 2 volunteers from the public as well. So just balancing out what we can manage and the workflow that they're all doing. But we have about 10 volunteers currently.
Okay, thanks.
What is the iSchool?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what is the iSchool?
Also, it's a library and information school at the University of Illinois.
Okay.
It's like a college, almost.
It's one of the colleges.
It used to be
Hello, I am Donica Martin. I'm also an archives librarian at the Urbana Free Library. I'm going to talk about another big project that we are in the thick of it. It's a large-scale special collections processing project. And basically it involves inventorying, cataloging, and processing about 650 linear feet of special collections materials. The concept for the project began in May of 2017 when I attended an SAA workshop on reappraising materials that you already have. And then in November of 2017, it began in earnest with doing preliminary physical inventories of collections. So I give you guys a handout. That is the handout that we presented a project at the Midwest Archives Conference last week. So I thought, what better way to share that than to give you the handout that went along with it. So as you see on the handout, we have a lot of goals and objectives that we started out with. That was the planning period from May to November. So first of all, the major goal was to reduce our backlog of materials. Like all archives, we have a large backlog because we get more in, then we have time to process and really go through. So processing the materials, getting them rehoused into archival boxes, folders, photocopying things that are on acidic paper, that will reduce the footprint made by those materials without even getting rid of anything. So our major goal was to just reduce that backlog, reduce the number of linear feet that were unprocessed. The second major concern was to provide intellectual access to materials. A lot of the materials that we had very little information to go along with them. Some may have had a preliminary catalog record with a short inventory, but none of them had finding aids or bibliographic records that were complete. So we wanted to get those onto Local History Online, which is our in-house catalog of materials. The last major concern was physical space, cleaning up the library annex next door. And, you know, with the addition of special collections materials coming in, with the great addition of the Chinook collection, we just keep adding more to the annex building, and we needed a way to reduce the amount of space that things are taking up. So this project obviously has many moving parts. We've made a lot of progress in the last year and a half. I revamped the Archives Volunteer Program, collaborated with Sherry, as she mentioned, on writing out these practicum descriptions, getting students from the Information Science School in here. We have the great resource of the U of I right down the street, so we're taking full advantage of it. We've created these exciting, mutually beneficial practicum opportunities for students. They're learning a lot from us, but they're generating a lot of materials for us. A lot of work goes into those practicums. They're 100 hours a piece. So when we have 3 practicum students in a semester, that's 300 hours of work that they provide for us. And we get to teach them, you know, archival standards and principles. So one of our practicum students, Heidi Charles, performed a physical inventory of 500 boxes. So she was next door, just getting the boxes down, looking at that physical log, making sure that what was in the box matched it, taking notes on preservation concerns. Are there things in here that are decaying, or is there acidic paper that we need to get, onto some acid-free paper? She worked on that the whole semester, and she did a great job. And then last fall, our archives apprentice, Angela Solis, took those box logs and generated about 170 finding aids from those. There are still some that need to be worked with, but that's a huge chunk of those boxes have been taken care of with those finding aids. And then cataloging volunteers, like I said, we have 7 volunteers. 3 of them this semester are cataloging, and then we also have a cataloging practicum student. So they're getting a lot of work done. They've done over 60 bibliographic records using Mark 21 on the OCLC Connection client software. And those are uploaded into the OCLC database, so they're searchable nationally with WorldCat. And they're also uploaded onto Local History Online, which is our catalog, and then onto the Champaign-Urbana pack. So if you search in any of those catalogs, for something that is in our special collections that are online, you'll find it in one of those ways. To put that in perspective, the archives started out with about 109 special collections, which was in the fall of 2018 before these students started. Now we have 171 online, and there are 108 that have finding aids that are waiting to be cataloged. So they're in the queue for the cataloging students to make records. They're original bibliographic records, so they take some time to create rather than copy cataloging. But I anticipate that we'll have probably over 200 special collections by the end of May that are online and ready for patrons to search.
Separate collections?
Right,
Wow.
yes. So from 2015 to 2018, about 50 to 60 finding aids were generated between Sherry and myself, just because it took a long time for 2 people to do. So these students in 6 months have done 3 times that. Fantastic student volunteers in 2018, 2019. I'm looking forward to next year. So this slideshow, I have a couple of images. This is what our original box logs looked like. They had a container list, a list of what was in there. You can see that this one was, maybe you can see it was updated in like 1996 was the last time before we looked at it. There were just a lot of collections next door. So this is what a patron would have seen minus all the handwriting on it if they would have searched for these materials 6 months ago. This is the MARC code that we use to catalog the finding aids. We have to do a little bit of tweaking because MARC isn't made for archives records. It's made for library records and materials. So this is just to show you how the students have to kind of compare those codes and enter the correct metadata into those records. This is an example of what somebody would get in their search results if they searched for orphan trained materials, which is the special collection that this record is for. So it's clean, and there are subject access points, name access points, and then it has a collection number on it. I love it. And then this is an example of our new finding aid format. So this is what that first box log will look like now. So it's cleaned up, it has more metadata, it tells you any accession information that we have. Some of the materials we don't have very much, we just know that it was donated or that it was donated at a certain time. But it has the inventory list, it has a scope and content note that'll be in the summary of the search results, and it has all those access terms down there as well. So this is the end goal for all these collections. And like I said, we hope to have over 200 online by the end of this semester. So it's going really well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question about using the MARC format for
Sure.
archival material.
Mhm.
And like you mentioned, archival records usually don't use MARC, but is that going to be a problem with standards later on, or?
I don't think so. The reason why we use MARC is because of the ILS platform that we use, which is Polaris. We use the same catalog platform as Champaign-Urbana's, the regular library.
Okay.
We just have a separate database because some of our records are only indexed. But no, because we'll probably, if we ever migrate to a new system, we'll be with the library. So we'll be still using
Okay.
a library format.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yes.
So you said you're enjoying teaching your practicum students all the ins and outs of archiving. Are you learning anything from them?
Absolutely. I learn a lot from them every semester. They're very enthusiastic and they're learning the new standards. So, for example, for cataloging, they've upgraded. When I first started, we were using AACR2, which was the cataloging standard for a long time.
Watch it there.
So they were using that when I was in library school?
So the students have learned RDA, which is the newer standard, and they've made new templates using RDA. They've added in new subfields that correlate with that, and are upgrading records as they're going. So, going forward, we're using that, not retroactively, but yeah, and just, many things like that.
To follow up on that, are the students that you're working with working on a specialty in their graduate school work for archives? Is it a very special kind of thing that you really don't have a big pool to call from?
Typically, yes. I also work with cataloging students who are doing the MARC records. I've had a few that are overlap, but most of them are, I either work with students who are interested in cataloging, or we work with students who are focused on archives. Sometimes we'll get a student who's not sure where they want to specialize, which is great, it's fine. They're usually really fun. But most of the time, people come in knowing that they want to do archives.
This is one of the first times we've heard, other than your director telling us about the archives, that we've heard nitty-gritty of archive work, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very educational.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is Amanda ready for the strategic planning work?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Okay, I think we're ready.
I actually want to ask Barbara Jones if you want to kick us off by talking about the process team update, kind of from that perspective.
Okay, the process team update, I gave you one from our last meeting, I think, the last meeting I've been at, didn't I? Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's right. Sure.
Okay.
There hasn't been one.
Well, the process team's been doing a lot of work
Yes,
since the last
okay, that I can
meeting.
do, okay.
Yeah.
So, from our input on the survey, the team here at the library made some updates, and I just want to say that my concerns were addressed head-on, so thank you. It's not like it was a big deal, but there were some things that,
Sure.
that I wanted in there. So, yeah, and now I really can't say too much more, because you're sending it out, right?
Right, so we've been working on building the community survey that we hope to go live next week, maybe, fingers crossed. So the process team spent a lot of time reviewing that, making updates, giving suggestions. That survey then went to our community ambassador team. There are 8 of them, 7, 8 community ambassadors. And we heard from quite a few of them with some updates.
Okay.
We incorporated that. Then the survey went back to the process team for final revisions. That wrapped up on Monday. And then we spent some time doing machine translation into French and Spanish of the surveys. and they now are in the hands of the schools. We have fingers crossed that they'll be back tomorrow, but we are waiting. We haven't heard from them and, as to how it's going, editing those. And once we have final editions of the French and Spanish, we'll upload those and be ready to launch the survey. So hoping next week. So the process team's next step is to get together and talk about focus groups. And I'll talk a little more about the focus groups in a second. But we're trying to schedule a meeting for late April, early May to start talking about what those will look like and the agenda for those meetings. We're also planning a community leaders breakfast, which is a focus group, just a little expanded, and particular people that we'll invite in the community. So the process team will have input on that as well. And then we'll be doing a series of interviews with community members as well. People maybe that can't come to the focus groups, or other people that have volunteered to talk about the library and the library's future, and we'll narrow that list down too. Any questions about the process group before I kind of jump into where we're at and our timeline? Okay.
What is the process group?
I'm sorry.
What is the process group?
Right, it's basically the Strategic Planning Steering Committee. So it's the group that's making sure the strategic planning process is continuing to move forward. This group is not writing the strategic plan, that's for the board to do. This is the group that's just making sure all the process components are being looked at and move forward. So there are, I can't remember how many process team members, but Jane and Barbara are the two board members. There's a community member, Joan Hood, and the rest are staff members.
Okay, this is the part of the process?
Yes, I'm going to talk about that next.
Okie dokie.
Okay, so I do want to review our strategic planning timeline because there have been some updates. We are still on schedule for now, so that's good. This will be this board's third strategic planning meeting. You'll recall that our first meeting we did an environmental scan where we talked about here's what's going on in our community and in our state and in our world that we are doing strategic planning in. So just kind of getting the context for our strategic planning. Last month we did a SOAR analysis. So we talked about strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. We'll talk more about that in a minute. I kind of narrowed it to the library, like just thinking about like what are we good at? What do we want to be? Tonight we're going to talk about vision and mission, so more about that in a minute. If you look at the timeline, you'll see that the community survey is slated for April/May. It will be open for approximately 4 weeks. So again, fingers crossed that we get it out next week. The process team, again, will get together and help finalize invites for focus groups. We'll have some open focus groups as well too. And then, as I mentioned, a community leaders breakfast and interviews. We have engaged a facilitator, someone who is also a librarian that does strategic planning facilitation, to come in and do those focus group sessions for us so that we have a neutral party that can ask questions and take feedback and give us some recommendations based on the feedback. The focus group agenda will be developed after we see some of the community survey results, because we want to dig into some of those results in the focus group sessions. When we have all this data, that's kind of the end of our first phase, our learning phase that we're in right now. So we'll take all of this data that we've gathered along with community data that we're gathering, demographics, other strategic plans that are out there in the community, and we will write a learning report, and that will be the deliverable for the first phase. And this basically will be a document that says, here's what we've learned, here are some findings, here's what we want to communicate to the board as we think about the next phase, which is a retreat that we're planning with the board. So the May board meeting will have some preliminary community survey results for you. They won't be pretty and they won't be final, but we'll have something to talk about and just say, here are a couple highlights, things that have come in. The survey may even still be open at that time, so we don't want to, do too much and influence people, like before the polls close in essence. But we will talk a little about the survey. You all get a break in June from strategic planning, so yay, we won't have a session in June, but in July is when we'll bring the learning report to you and go over that in detail. Then you'll notice in phase 2, our dream phase, that the big piece there is the board retreat. We've slated that for the regular board meeting, so August 13th. We'll have regular board business and then spend the rest of the time in retreat. That is the time that we'll start to finalize vision and mission statements. We'll look at strategic directions and key initiatives there. That input will go back to staff at department level meetings to talk about, okay, if this is the direction the board thinks they're going, what kinds of things will we do in terms of activities to make these things a reality. We're still pretty much in draft in the second phase that we'll go into this summer. Because, you know, we want to kind of try on things, right, and think about them for a little while, see how they feel, get staff input, and then we'll bring it back to the board. We also want to give our community ambassadors a chance to give input on the learning report, any other draft documents we have related to the actual strategic plan. We want the ambassadors to take a look at and give feedback as well. So our last phase is when we'll bring everything together. So things will move from draft phase to final draft phase. You'll notice we scheduled a meeting in September with this board, the Friends board, and the Foundation board. We thought, what a great opportunity to get everybody together to look at a draft, kind of a final draft of the strategic plan, give input, talk about what it means for each of the different groups, and then incorporate that feedback, bring the final draft back to the board in October for discussion and final revisions, and hopefully then approve the plan in November. This is a pretty tight schedule, honestly. We've already moved things back quite a bit, and in order to approve something before the end of the year, we hope that things will go on schedule. We have a little bit of flex if we don't approve something until December. Not a huge deal, but just giving you every month an update on where we are so you understand when things have maybe moved a little bit, why they've moved a little bit. So right now we're still at our final date that we had initially proposed, but if things were to get moved back for unforeseen reasons or the board decided to, we may be looking at a December approval date. So questions about the timeline? Next I would like to just take a minute with the SOAR notes. So that's the sheet that says strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. This is basically the compilation of what you talked about last month at your meeting. So remember we broke into groups, you took notes, we had someone type up the notes, and we debriefed a little bit. Just wanted to bring this back out in front of you in case you have anything that you wanted to add, anything that after you read through it again that kind of stuck out to you. So I'll just give you a minute to review that again quickly and make any comments that you might have.
Just the thought that there's a lot of kind of redundancy here. So
Sure.
It could be a lot of items that are almost identical could be combined to make it read smoother, make it easier for people to vote.
Things, you're saying.
Yeah. For example, basically it says we got to make sure we have enough money. You know, that's
Right.
like 6 different times in slightly different ways.
So that's an excellent point about like, what are we gonna do with this thing? This is just for your use. I mean, obviously it's a public document because you're a public body, but this doesn't go into any kind of final report this is part of our learning. So this is a piece that will help inform that learning report. So I don't necessarily intend that we would make edits on this, but pointing out that there's redundancy actually, I think, helps give the message that, gee, we're all kind of talking about the same thing here. Yeah. Anything else that stands out? Okay, awesome. So we're going to move on to talking about vision and mission. And I want to very clearly say up front that we're not writing vision and mission statements tonight. So when you all start writing them, which you will do later because your brain will go there, I am going to remind you that we're not writing vision and mission statements tonight, okay? It's very easy to slip into that, like, let me put these words together in a sentence. No, not tonight.
You understand our support for that.
Yeah. So I'll be saying this multiple times, and you'll start to roll your eyes, and you'll start to remind each other, oh, we're not writing this tonight. Instead, what I want to do tonight is a couple of exercises that will just get us feeling vision and mission, really. You'll remember at the very beginning of this process when we talked about the golden circle and Simon Sinek, and the why is in the middle, right? The start with why, that's his book. And tonight's really about the why, like why do we exist? Like what value do we give to the community? Why do we want people to like the library and be a part of us? And like, how does it make us feel? And how do we want other people to feel about us? That's what tonight is about, and capturing some of those thoughts and some of those words. Vision and mission are really important because it's really where this board lives, is thinking about the vision and mission of the library and communicating that to the public and selling the library, really. I put vision first because to me that's what's aspirational. That's that short kind of catchphrase that all of you, when we have a vision statement, will be able to remember and say to other people. It's that when people say like, gosh, why are you on the library board? You'll have that vision in your head and you'll be able to say, this is why, because this. The mission though is that very practical, like, okay, so if that's your vision, like how do you do that? And the mission is something that will very concretely say, these are the things that we do that help us achieve our vision. So they're statements that go together, but they're short and memorable and descriptive. One really paints this aspirational, like, wow, don't I want to live in a community like that? And the other says, yeah, here's what we're going to do to make that happen. So you have a couple of handouts that I gave you. One is, I think they're actually both from Board Source, but one talks about the difference between vision and mission statements. And this is really just for your information to kind of get an idea of like, what are we kind of thinking here? This is not long, let's throw in the kitchen sink type thing. Both statements are meant to be concise and descriptive and be appealing to you, to the community, to the staff, and compelling. It's really it's that why. It's why we're here, why we exist as an organization, and then what we're gonna do to make that vision happen. The other one is from Top Nonprofits, and it's just kind of a little checklist. There's a couple of examples on there too. We're not gonna do this actual exercise, but it's just kind of interesting, the questions that are asked here that we can use as we have our discussion tonight and think about. I think Beth had one more, somebody had one more, the 9 aspects of, I didn't print it.
This one?
Good, yes, this one. So this is a Board Source one also. Yeah, I really like this one as well, because again, it gives you more description about what should be in that mission statement. Thinking action, thinking community you serve, thinking very concrete and understandable to people, no jargon, stuff like that. So these 3 documents are really just meant to be support documents for you as we start thinking about vision and mission. In a minute, we're going to break up and do an exercise, but let me say that, again, we're not writing them tonight. Instead, your input tonight, your feedback tonight will go back to the process team. And it's really their job to distill this and start to put those pieces together for you. They're the work group, they're the work team. And so when we talk about these statements again in August at the retreat, we'll have some samples for you. And the process team is going to put those samples together. Now at that time, if you look at these samples, I don't know how many there will be, 3, 6, 12, I don't know. Depends on what we talk about tonight. You can say like, we really like these 3, let's start to work on those, or we really like this one, or we don't like any of these. So just so you know, that's how this is going to work. You give input, process team works, puts things together, it comes back to you to talk about further. If at the board retreat we don't get a vision and mission statement, and we probably won't, it will then go back to the process team to work on further and bring you back more drafts. Okay, so this is just the very, very start of us talking about vision and mission statements. Okay, anybody want to say anything about vision and mission before we get into our activities for the evening?
It says vision statement is a 1-sentence statement. At the end, it'll be 1 sentence or a collection of 1 sentence.
No, 1 sentence.
Oh, good.
Actually, the way the strategic planning industry is moving is that vision statements are actually more like taglines. And when you read some of the examples here, Google other ones, they're really meant to be like on a t-shirt, like something that's inspiring yet quick, short to remember, that you can use in a lot of different ways to communicate. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add a note here. I was really inspired by talking to a friend who was on the Champaign Public Library Strategic Planning Committee. And we were having lunch, and she said, oh, this new process is like great. And she used to work at the university, and we've worked on there. And I said, so what did you come up with? She said, 2 things. We're going to focus on jobs and on young people. And I'm like, whoa, that makes sense to me. That you pick something and you can remember it.
Yeah. So those are their strategic directions. And yeah,
I
easily,
love
and that doesn't mean that you're not doing all the other library stuff.
Right,
It just means
right,
that
but
your
that's
energy
what-
is focused on those two
Yeah,
things.
I really like that.
Yeah, and we'll get there, right? Like, it's exciting to see those other examples, especially it's so near to us, that we
Yeah.
can use as models for where we're going.
And it made me wonder, should we look at what Champaign decided vis-à-vis what we decide?
So
But I guess that's down the
yeah.
road.
Well, and that's part of what the process team will be looking at, other strategic plans in the community and thinking about, how do we fit in with that, or does that complement us, or?
Yeah.
Other thoughts about vision and mission before we break into our activities? Okay, so we're gonna get in groups again. And we're going to start with vision, and your agenda, so there is a separate agenda for this section, kind of talks a little bit about what I want you to talk about. We will split into groups. I'll have you four here, so you ladies might want to come around here, and then I'll have you three work together. Again, I'd like a scribe for each of the groups. You have a handout to use. One says vision, one says mission, to take some notes on, because this is what I'll collect and bring back to the process team. But first we'll start with vision. Now, we don't have a vision statement at the library, so that's great. That means we get to do whatever we want. But the way I'd like you to have your discussion is start by telling a story. And you've got your instructions here. Each person will tell a story about what's happening in the community when the library is having impact. So you're imagining that future where, like, wow, everybody's super engaged with the library. We're doing all the things that we said we were going to be doing. Like, what does that look like? And the scribe, whoever is scribe, is listening and capturing some of those key words that people are saying. Be focused on the future, aspirational, something that's not yet achieved by the library. And really, you want to get to that feelings. I know this sounds, really like woo-woo, but how does it feel when you see this in the community? Those are the words that we really want to capture tonight. How do people feel about the library in this perfect future? So each person will go around and kind of talk about this. The scribe will make some notes, and then we'll report out at the end. So we're going to take maybe 15 or so minutes to do this, not very long. This is really just like, wow, here's things I really want to see. You don't have to think through it. You don't have to think, what would this cost? How would we do this? None of that. It's really just like kind of gut reaction. If the library were everything to the community, what are the kinds of things that are happening? We'll report out, take some notes, and then we'll go back and do the same thing for mission with a little bit different focus because mission's different. Questions about what we're going to do before we break up? Okay, so we'll come back together about 8:05. I'll be listening in.
Here and here, or are you guys close enough this way?
I'll come around. Okay. Do we want this recorded?
Okay.
Yes.
We do?
Yes. It's the meeting.
She can hear it. Okay.
So Chris, tell us the story. Tell us the story.
First, get a scribe. I want to make sure somebody's taking notes.
Half of my menus were freezing and half.
I guess I think vision wise,
Was this the day
I
switching over?
think to have enough space.
Yes, this is the university.
I think that's.
Who's taking notes?
Oh,
I'm a notoriously terrible
Notorious.
and Barbara gets to do it all the time, so I guess I'll.
I did the last two.
I can do this one. I hate to say it.
Like I said,
just because
vision to me
Oh, you got a head start.
Well, because
is sufficient space.
brain dead, so.
And we're
Do you
like
want to blame? Yes.
parking, it all goes together.
Happily, I'm not brain dead.
Space is what I think we're.
Some days.
You are an overachiever.
Yes.
Yeah, to add to that, what I'd like to see is that when there's a program in here, and then a program an hour from now, we don't have to completely we have to redo the chairs and blah, blah, blah. A little more flexibility.
Well, and with that, word space would be enough space to accommodate. Because when we had the two programs, it worked, but they didn't have enough room upstairs. So space just is overall powering to me.
Especially, again, if we think of what's the community need. Right now, we have big problems with high school kids not having places, and so if we want to address the biggest problem of the community, we do need more space to do it.
Could I suggest instead of the word more, we say usable or adaptable or something, because everybody says we need more space, but I see things here that maybe could be redone if we knock out.
That's true, that's true.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't care how you say it.
It's like the CDs and
stuff. So that's
videos.
my story.
I've complained from the day
That's
they
one of my
arrived in the front room, took up the best space in the whole building, and it takes up that whole room.
It's maybe even higher level than that.
Bad use of
And
space.
that's that you would have societies.
And I'd like to see
that
risers.
Have a love for
Am I the
knowledge.
only one?
What's the riser?
Risers,
Yes.
it's like went
That-
for
that's-
concerts and
all
stuff.
right, so let's see.
So
So
the
we-
people in the back, I mean, I think this is not a
We
great
can
space
put
for
a number of these
performances.
things down. So
Or a stage
So
or
if they love knowledge
something. Is that too
acquisition,
much?
that's sort of.
No, not for some of the
So
space, I
our
don't
vision
think
is
it
that
would
the
be.
libraries.
I mean, it's
We used to
funny,
have
it's
that.
funny when we have, yeah, kind of,
I'm using
in
the
that
word
big room.
concierge,
Yeah.
just
That big room that was here at
That's good for, a presentation or something like that, but for things that are more group activities, it actually could.
You would need a flat space there.
Yeah, right.
So can I interrupt for 1 second and say that this is great, yes, space, but what are people doing in the space?
Yeah.
That's what the vision is
Continue
about.
the
Are they
knowledge
connecting, are they
transfer.
collaborating?
Right.
Yeah, I get the
Okay.
vision and
I
the
can
mission
do that.
mixed up. but,
Okay.
Okay.
And you're trying to meet a need.
They're going to dance
Help
performances,
Exactly.
they're
Yes.
Going to
Right.
music
So-
performances.
And
I think
so
music
also
and culture, that's one of our big
I
strengths.
mean, I think, I think this probably goes in the other
Right.
category,
You know
but
what you want, but you don't know how to get
Our
it.
purpose
This
is
would
to,
be educating and guiding people.
let all the citizens
How to use
have
and understand
access
how to access
to
these resources to navigate.
all the culture of, people develop
You know, I hate
forever.
I don't, I guess I'm a little concerned as you think of cultural, and I think that's where you're headed. I guess I'm thinking in terms of more informational that is vocational. I mean, I think that everybody can go to school, but they can't afford to go to school, or they go to a meeting that you learn something about selling a house, for example.
Yeah.
And programmatic things that influence lives.
I agree with that. Actually, I totally agree with that. I'm just thinking we can have both, but if we can't have both.
Well,
And also, here's another thing I get.
That's a good point you made.
Trusted place.
Forget that culture is usually used in sort of a little narrow sense.
Yeah, cultural is very narrow. I mean, you can't reach everybody with.
Well, I was using more like an anthropologist, where it's the whole thing, like how you sell your house and everything, and how to add and subtract the whole works.
I was just thinking about the dance thing we saw with this Indian woman who, I mean, she talked to all the kids. I just, you see connection among generations, these programs, and people feel freer to ask questions than they would at Granite, let's say. And children feel comfortable here, and that's what
But is
I'm
it,
thinking
I mean,
of.
I'm zeroing in on your cultural things again. I'm not sure that we're adept at, we don't have staff. That it's got to go outside to get those
But
resources to do those.
Yeah, but Carolinsky
This is
does.
aspirational, though.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have to think about how it actually
Yeah.
gets done.
No, but I'm not sure that, we have, I just went today to the children's program at Granite. We're sponsors there. And they had the Canadian Brass. Entirely different program than I went to the other night. These kids want to ask questions. What's that instrument? How does it work?
Yeah.
Oh, their stupid little question.
Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful use of Granite. And the kids are in the environment. We can't provide that kind of stuff.
But we have,
But
I
I think
would
you
argue.
got,
I mean,
there are multiple places you can go on the
we
internet.
have this music thing that, I mean, I have friends who never miss one. I mean, and when we had
We're helping
the Folk and
people.
Roots Festival, this was
How do you, why do they want to
I
come to
mean,
us? Why do they want?
I will defer if you think
Well, no,
you can't do it all, but it just
can't
so
do it all.
strong. And it would make this a center for,
knowledge of
I don't know, I mean, and the kind of things we do here, like I keep going to that dance concert or poetry reading, where local artists could come, and it was free, and all these people who
Yeah, I
support
like
him.
that, I like that.
And the room is packed, that's the other thing.
And I
These
guess I
things-
like the things that are doable and that relate to library. I mean, I know I'm kind of confining that a library can't do everything.
But also
I mean,
finding,
Yeah.
we're loaning equipment right now, and I keep thinking, what business have we got loaning equipment to people
Your fantasy and your.
when there's organizations out there that rent these things? I don't know. You know.
Yeah, can I say what I think about
Yeah.
that? If I had my druthers, I would say something like the library's purpose is to help level the playing field in the community. And by that I mean people who can't afford musical instruments. I mean, which means if we rent them and it isn't much, I mean, if we loan them, then people don't have to worry about renting it. Same thing with the hotspots that we loan for people to take home who can't afford internet at home. I think that kind of stuff levels the playing field. And I don't know how politically you are, but man, that's what I would do with this library, is just say,
Why do you love to read?
we've got to really.
Where do you draw the line?
Pardon me?
Where do you draw the line?
I know.
That's the problem.
That's the thing. We were talking about that this
So
weekend.
that's why I think the library plays a role too.
When all the other social services are going down the
That's where we're
toilet.
lacking.
Right, and I think
Only because of money,
that's my
not
vision,
because it's
too.
bad people.
Yeah, it's money.
But it's money. You know, why are librarians giving shots for overdoses? Why are librarians being social workers? I mean, I get that. I mean, I wonder how much.
But shouldn't we not, we shouldn't request, make that staff's responsibility? We should bring in the professional that does that to begin with. We should be the coordinator or the facilitator or the energizer around that topic.
And so
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me too of more and more libraries, what they're doing with homeless people.
I was putting around
So the
lots of different
libraries
visions
are
into
bringing,
my mind.
instead of
So
kicking
the one
people
vision
out
is,
because
hey,
they
we're a trusted
smell,
place to
Yeah.
help
they're
in accessing
bringing
the
portable
resources to navigate
showers
the increasingly digital
outside
world. So
the
that's
library.
where research.
And my question
We're
is,
a place
you know,
where we're
how much,
educating
where,
young adults
Where does
to
social
figure out how
work?
to take advantage
And-
of all
and
of these
so as
resources
we
so that they can then
envision what we
be
are, I think
guides
we have
themselves,
to
children, to elderly family members, to get those populations
It's not
that
like
maybe
other libraries
need
aren't
these
doing
tools to
this.
how to navigate society. But then I also went on to it, but
You know,
I also
I
see
just-
us as we're a
it's
focal
hard,
point
isn't it?
to bring together our diverse.
But I know New York
communities. So
Public
different than
Libraries
research,
really,
different than tools,
they view
but
themselves
not
in the
getting
city,
your-
New York
your,
views them as
how to
helping
get
to
the
bridge that
love
have and have not
for-
gap.
For learning.
That's what they're
That's the
doing.
community
Yeah,
square.
libraries have
Community
always
square.
done
So-
that, which
so-
is,
Yeah.
Well,
Right. So
that's
I
what
was
the
just
creation
kind of
was, to give books
Not saying
to
I'm trying
Yeah.
to create
people
those
that
because
That's right.
couldn't afford.
That's
That's right.
saying, what are-
Yeah.
what are-
Well, you don't have to be just one.
So I've got
No,
space to
no,
level
so
the playing
it's-
ground
but-
field.
Yeah, so with however.
Space and services, I
And
guess you
I'm gonna
say.
shut up
space
and
and
I'm gonna
services.
Well, I think that
A more flexible,
this
is
community
flexible a
square
good
approach
word
is,
or
that's
what?
30,000
What
people.
I see is, you know,
I mean, lots of things
like if I had my
happen in
druthers, I'd have
community square.
portable
This is very
risers.
aspirational.
Yeah,
Start
risers that
with,
you can put up
okay,
and down.
we
I
are-
mean,
'cause not everybody would agree
rooms
with
that
that.
can be
So-
switched
Right.
around better.
I know what you're saying.
Does agree that this is.
That,
Because that is true, we're into a
It's-
mode.
School is a different.
We're just
high
sort
school
of in
is
a,
different.
yeah.
boxes.
And I wonder, like, and like Michael, what you were saying about the schools, it's like, I totally agree with that.
Right.
And should we have more?
But our vision is that it would be for all.
Should the
Yeah,
teen
not
space
everyone
look
has the
different?
ability
I don't
to
know,
move
I just
over
don't
to
know
this
what,
location.
but should there be more private study rooms with
It might be a
with glass
virtual
windows,
focal
kind of like
point.
champagne
It might be a
rooms? I don't
physical
know.
focal point.
We create.
Are theirs well used? I see so many times I've been there that I
Yeah.
thought half of those rooms are not used.
Can be that escape.
I know.
At night, it's,
At night may be well
Michael's
used.
room, it's packed.
Okay.
We could hardly get a schedule for
Okay.
next year. But I don't know during the day, but at
They're
night.
not well used.
because it's school kids, so they're in the day, they're in
I'd
school.
say you can start with that.
Or people,
I don't know.
working people. that-
At night, it's meetings like the NAACP, the ACLU meets there, my book group. I mean, there are rooms, we had to wait last night for another group to get out,
Okay.
to get in. And I don't, but I don't know. But I'm just thinking also of the kids. Michael, I think it was you saying that with the problem we have in the Urbana schools, I think the library is an ideal place
Are there any of the
to
words
collaborate and
you've
address some
Well,
of this.
Celeste is saying
Get
that
excited
she
about?
does that, some of that already, and
I'm
it's
sure.
overcrowded.
Yeah.
And it's.
Well, and I think our program that's for teens after school, you come in here, I'm a little concerned that there's a huge group down here at the screen watching them playing games, but maybe they're socializing and maybe they're not beating each other up, and so maybe there's a place for that. I do think that when that jumped out at me, the mention of teens, we really have not programmed for teens, other than that.
We don't have a teen board here, I don't think. I think that teens, maybe we should say,
About 5 more minutes.
Okay.
Well, I really think that should be our focus because,
Request for learning.
at least
You're
starting from where we are, the direction in which our focus should be changing should be toward teens because that's where the biggest issue is in town.
And I mean, the school talks all the time about breaking up the school to prison pipeline, and I know they talk about that all the time, and library can be part of that.
Okay, you want part of that as part of the mission?
I would suggest to put it down. I mean, it can
Service
get
to
knocked down.
teens?
Yeah, sure.
Just make it general enough.
We're already talking about vision right now, just to remind you.
But we're only talking about
Okay.
vision.
Mission in a minute.
We're only talking mission, okay.
Just we're
Well,
only
is
talking
this,
vision right now.
okay, is this vision then?
That teens see this as a safe, interesting place to go. That teens see this, they think of it like, okay, where could I go? Let's go to the library instead of to a local park to fight or
I'm
something.
just gonna say, they see it as a good place to go.
Yeah.
And good can be defined as anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking about Shargo Public Library at night and how the teens are down at Harold Washington. I mean, the place is packed. It's packed with kids and no fights, no nothing. They're making music. They have a literary magazine. I mean, there's stuff to do.
Yeah.
You know, that the kids think is worthwhile. Not just sitting and reading a book in a corner. I mean, not that that's bad, but, you know. Teens
Well,
are
you
really
wanted
a
to
good
be,
place
you
for
wanted
us
to be
to.
interested, because your point about.
Seems like that's where the biggest need is.
Yeah.
This is already a good town for seniors, relatively.
Yeah.
It
It is a good town, and yet we don't offer a lot of special services for
No, we
seniors.
don't,
Understood.
but this town has Ollie.
But maybe there's a lot of things.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what we're talking about.
compared to a lot of places, it's
The
already.
library inspired.
When you do that, Urbana has got hands down on a lot of places, yeah.
Because, people can go off to things at the university,
Yeah.
there's all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff going on.
They can watch YouTube,
I agree.
or they can sit and play video games.
I'd be really happy if we did a lot of teen stuff and
So this is
got them more
aspirational.
proactive. Like I
So
said,
how
a
does
lot of
the
libraries have
library
teen
cultivate
boards, and I think we should have one. I mean, they need to, I think they should set the direction with
Sure.
the big people, but I mean,
My parents.
Sure.
they need to be.
Get teens
proactive.
involved in
Yes.
programming.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what they're not,
Little girls.
if they're having trouble at school, like what can the library do to fill in the gaps, what they're not getting?
It's kind of like that handoff from the parents.
Not very articulate, I'm just, but I really like the idea of us focusing.
You don't have to know how. I mean, if you
It
just
just
say
seems
though,
it
like,
would,
yeah.
that would help with the
There's something there.
schools, it would help.
It would help some of the teens that
Curiosity.
Yeah.
fall in
And
between
that's,
the cracks.
I think that's a good
Won't
vision.
solve the problems, but it'll
No,
help.
but it would,
Nurtures
yeah.
curiosity, they inspire, the library nurtures.
You know, I feel so bad about Don's efforts because it just
Yeah.
wasn't understood. The attempt was not
It
understood.
breaks my heart every day.
They have.
So we're going to gather back as a group. Both of these groups have had very different conversations, very, very interesting.
Librarian comes over and asked what I want.
I'll let Jane finish her
He kind
thought.
of yapped away about buffalo, so she understood it. And she said, a little bit of advice on buffalo to the city and his cattle. Looking at a great-
Well, three.
So let's debrief for a few minutes. And what I'd like to do is each of the scribes, I'm going to put you on the spot to just summarize what you talked about. And I'll take a few notes as you're doing that. So Chris, do you want to talk about your group?
Okay, we've got
Just because you
space
think
and
you
serve.
want to do something one way doesn't mean you can do it a different way.
Okay. Space and services to level the playing field.
Okay.
Teens seeing us as a good place to go.
Okay.
And getting teens involved in programming.
Okay.
That's about all we could do with that.
Okay. Anything else from this group that you talked about that didn't get on Chris's
No.
list that you want to
Oh.
mention?
We were all
Okay,
over the
great.
place.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I mean, that's
We talked
the
about
idea.
culture, and,
Yeah.
we talked a lot about cultural activities and whether we could afford it, given the extreme problems in the community
Sure.
right now, with schools, et cetera.
Yeah.
Well,
Does
the-
is
when-
vision
when I
attached
said-
to money though?
when I said culture, I didn't mean.
You know what I mean? It's that.
Right.
Culture. Not-
Yeah.
No, you meant like anthropology, like you said.
With the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yeah,
You know,
sure, there's a very broad definition
there is,
there.
yeah.
And you know, at the stage of talking about vision, we're not defining things, and we're not thinking about money either. Great. Anything else that didn't get on Chris's list that you want to mention? Okay, so I'll let Beth talk
Okay,
about your
so I'm going to distill all of our very wordiness.
Yeah,
We were doing
please.
higher concepts, and I love Sharice's tagline, Community 911.
Yeah.
That's.
Okay, and I'll also take a trusted concierge.
What do you mean by concierge?
That means,
I can't spell concierge.
yeah, well, that could go
I
on.
think it's got a C.
So to try to get this, so
It's
the
a
trusted
yes,
concierge
C.
is that we're helping the
Yeah.
community
Great.
navigate
Okay.
the
okay,
information
okay,
society.
Okay, I buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
And in turn, this is empowering them.
Yes.
Yeah.
That kind of goes along with our getting teens involved in programming,
And
because
that's
they'll take ownership then.
culture in the broad sense.
Okay, what else,
Okay.
Beth?
So then, other keywords is the library, we're educating / guiding adults to understand how to use,
Resources.
take advantage of all these, both digital and physical resources, but part of the purpose of this is to allow them to guide their own children, and I have different populations, or elderly family members and friends, so not the both digitally literate or people who are understanding all these tools. So you've got train the trainer.
Yeah, you're kind of
that's fine.
creating levels.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And so then.
But that also goes along with empower, right?
It does
You're
go along with
It's empowered.
You're
We're
actually
not-
empowering people to be
Yes.
ambassadors
Yes.
for what
Yes.
the library
Yes.
offers. That's awesome.
So
Okay.
then, kind of changing pace here, so along with that Community 911, this whole concept of the library, it's the community square. So we're a focal point. We're bringing together our diverse community, and it could be digitally, physically, it could be virtually.
Or both.
And both. And then finally, which we were kind of
That's great.
finishing, but there's so much more I want to go, that the library inspires curiosity.
Yeah.
I like that better than the physical being, because I don't think that we're necessarily responsible as the community center, square.
This is aspirational. Wouldn't it be
But
cool
the
if we were?
curiosity is definitely.
This is yeah. So I mean, these are.
Yeah.
And did anyone want to add anything?
Yeah, anything-
The
anybody else?
sanctuary. That's right. Thank you.
Sanctuary, yeah.
Thank you. That's
Sanctuary.
what I started writing that. Yeah.
Okay, that's-
We're a safe base. We're a sanctuary.
Yes.
We're a safe space.
Anybody else in that group want to add to it? You guys had a really rich discussion with lots of good words. Anything else that didn't make it on the list?
Yeah, I think everything.
Covered pretty well.
So I'm going to leave you all very unsatisfied, because we're going to stop this discussion right here. And this is great input. I mean, as both groups talked, like, you all have images in your head of what these things mean, right? Like, that's the point of the vision, is that you say something like, the library is a community square, and every one of you has a thought in your head about what that looks like and what that means, and you're attached to it immediately, even if that doesn't end up being anything remotely close to what we would end up having as a vision statement. Just by having this discussion, we're starting to get those pictures in our head of what this looks like and what this means to people. So let's turn to mission. Very different discussion that I want you to have. Again, these are related, but I want you to try to set this aside for the moment, because, there's lots of different directions we could go with all of this. So we're going to kind of do the same thing. Go around, tell a story. What does it look like when the library is doing its best work? Be detailed about the work that we're doing, how we're doing this work, and who's benefiting. How do you feel about the library's work? We're still not thinking about money and putting budget line items and stuff like that. We're thinking if we're the best library we could be, what are the things that are happening? Let's start capturing some of those things. So same thing, the person taking notes, capture words and phrases that you like. I also, though, because we have a current mission statement, want you to spend just a little bit of time saying, you know, do we like this? What do we like from this? Are there certain words that we like, we think they might want to carry over? And then we'll report out. So again, we'll do about 15 minutes or so. Let me just read the current mission statement. It is on your agenda. The Urbana Free Library is a welcoming place with space, collections, technology, and staff dedicated to fostering literacy and a strong community. That's, in terms of elements of a good mission statement, they're all there. So I'm not going to diss this mission statement at all. And if your group says, you know what, we still really like that, awesome, we'll consider it in the mix. When we start to narrow down vision, even if we like this mission statement, we still may want to go back and make some tweaks to it. So basically you're having two discussions. You're doing the same thing, going around like, what are the things we're doing? How are we doing our best work? What does that really look like and feel like? And then checking in on the current mission statement. So we'll do about another 15 or so minutes here and then report out.
Current one ain't punchy. It's the opposite of punchy.
Amen.
It's like,
We have books. We have collections.
yeah. No, it's totally uninspiring.
There's nothing in the current mission statement about connections.
As well as everyone else.
It's like people come in and they're welcomed, and there's the stuff there, but it doesn't say how literacy or strong community happens. There's no connecting or glue or communications or energy.
I would say it's not going to have much of connecting, glue, all that.
Yeah.
It's one sentence. You should have some energy.
Yeah, energy.
You can, in one sentence, you can have some energy.
Yeah, amen. Energy is the word. The current one lacks energy.
So we're actually having
You're a physicist, right?
manipulative that will help people learn.
Is
So
what?
that's just-
He's a physicist.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
Think about
The
energy.
library offers safe reading space for the expression of diversity. So they're just, some of these come from there, and I'm just thinking.
Chris, what do you think?
I think when you think of something that we're really fantastically doing, if you haven't attended the Cinderella Ball or whatever, Storytell Ball, is probably the most energy, excitement among
Caffeinated thoughts because.
both parent and child. It shows up. I mean, it's fantastic.
It's happy hour. I said,
So Chris, why don't you go with that just for a second? So you're picturing Fairy Tale Ball and what's happening there. Like, how do people feel when they're at that event? Like, what is so compelling about that event?
To me, the thing that is interesting is we
I won't
have
drink the second one and then drink.
we have a lot of minorities show up there.
Okay,
We have
so it's a
lot of
diverse
minorities.
group.
Energy than normally is halfway through.
And they're coming together around this one
writing
thing.
stuff down, so, okay. Other things, so I can write these things down, but what?
I've never been to it, so I can't
No.
say.
Me neither.
But
I don't know what their goal with one thing would be, but from our perspective, we could say, okay, they've had fairy tales read to them all their lives. Now they can dress like it, and they can come and they can hear stories and watch puppets and put on sword fights, and that's some of the things we do. Dance, they do dance.
I like the family connection part of it.
It is.
I really
it is
like
family.
that. That's what I like.
It's young couples more than it is age, and they're little kids. They're little.
It sounds cool.
It is.
And I would add the storytelling times. I think that's really energetic.
Yeah.
But the fairy tale ball sounds like it has a lot of the elements that we want this to.
And I would imagine that we recruit parents that probably wouldn't come otherwise. I'm not sure that we've done a tremendous job of building our collection around minorities. That's been our goal. I'm not sure I have no idea when the statistics come out, what kind of volume we have of Chinese, Vietnamese, languages in our collection. I would think we're light.
Really?
I would think so. I don't know.
I was just reflecting some words back to you.
Reflected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other experiences or the things that you think of?
So the other thing I think of is.
I think that we ought to talk about the one that just happened. Possibly.
Absolutely, Chris, yes. We had a really difficult discussion.
That I'm not sure.
that most
I would guess
places in the
because
community
that
rejected
acquired the career.
having it.
Yeah. So I'm thinking.
And
You were here, weren't you?
and we did it. And since then, I've talked to dozens of people about it and their views about transsexuality.
Did you change your views?
Protect your heritage.
Oh, I didn't change them, but I learned. Oh, did I learn? Yes. What about you?
I didn't change any particular views, but I found out more about what other people are feeling.
Yeah. Boy, did I. It was one of the most valuable things I did that whole week. I mean, like I said, I've been reading. I ordered a book that the one panelist, and that's what I think is supposed to happen. Is people are supposed to respectfully listen and ask questions, and I thought it was
Civil
happening.
discourse? Is
Yes, man, I think I'm really glad you brought that up. I mean, we talk about energy. It took I took the staff a lot of energy, but I think it was worth it. We were the only ones in town who would give her a platform. I mean, the Art Theater won't, UIUC won't, the Ebert Fest won't.
How can they get away with it?
Because they're private. Well, the university
No, the
isn't.
university is
I know
not.
it's not, and I don't know about that, but the political correctness going on really bothers me, and I have to say, I don't agree with Nina on everything she said at all, but it was so important that she said it, and she had a place.
Exactly. I ended up feeling rather alienated from her, actually, but totally committed to the idea that
They have a right.
they were right, and there should be a public space. But,
Yes.
Yeah.
How do we put that one in words?
We're a town.
We really want to be a center for freedom of
I think the
expression.
mission is to get the community to want to support us enough.
You want this community to support the mission.
I'm all for that.
Our mission, I think our mission is to get people.
Freedom of expression. Boy,
Yeah.
that's,
That was pretty extraordinary what they did.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you think they will do further programming that way?
yeah, but I think she wants a break. ALA wants to do a whole program on it, a video with educational credits. And I think Celeste and I talked and decided we need to take a breather because it may encourage more. I sound terrible
Well,
tonight, but
and videos to me are
and it's going to be.
it's not the community then, it's me watching a video.
Well, and she's already been over to the university. She taught over at the iSchool on Monday, and she and Rachel.
Devoted toward literacy.
To a library school class about, saying, hey, guys, this is what you're going to run into. And,
Vessel to be used by.
and it went fine, she said. It was only 10 people, it was a small class, but she said it went fine, but I think, I don't know, but yeah.
But this actually does.
Wait, promote the freedom to read, or well, no, but it's more than reading.
It's more than reading.
Yeah, it is more than reading.
It's discussion, it's accepting, or understanding, building
This is
understanding.
a too detailed level for one of these one-sentence statements, but I would love to see us sponsor more real disagreement forums. That one was not a particular. There's some people in the audience that disagree, but I'd like to see real
people like that.
Getting to.
disputes, debate
I was
type
interpreting
things.
what you're saying where.
There's way too little of that, way too much compartmentalization into little pockets. And so if there's some way we can, again, that's not a broad vision statement.
No,
but
but
keep in mind.
I mean, to really declare we are a center for free expression, I mean, wow. Wow, I mean, that's what libraries are supposed to be.
And it's, again, and when possible, when we can pull it off,
Circle there.
free expression with actual conflict right there, rather than free expression right on the web with everybody in a little conflict.
Yeah, like why couldn't somebody from the upstairs and somebody from the downstairs, why couldn't it have,
Well, they couldn't be pulled off quickly, but if you plan ahead.
If you plan ahead, yeah.
Well, basically, she's got to call time on us.
I want you to make sure to talk about the current mission too. That's, I just wanted to.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's horrified, but.
We said it hit everything, but. So I've got energy, explanation, and freedom of freedom of expression.
And
So about 5 more minutes, and I want to make sure that you talk about the
I would say the fairy tale events that create energy, like the fairy tale ball, like the storytelling. I love the teens. When I'm down here after school, and this room is a teen lab, it is a riot. It's really fun. I mean, I'm sure it's driving the librarians crazy, but it's really cool.
I mean, at the level of one sentence bullshit, I'd say our mission is to open a portal for our whole community to participate in all aspects of human culture.
Yeah.
It's all bullshit, but it's got a little more energy than...
It does, yeah. Participate. They are a participant. It's not like we have the following things for you. It's like we participate. We are a part of this. We are co-creators in this space, in making this space energetic, something like that.
It won't be you're calling it?
No, yes, I'm just listening.
I thought you were.
I mean, I think to say more energy, and then, and the energy comes from participation.
And I do know
I hate to say too much because the librarians here are great. It's not like they lead people by the hand. They don't. Some librarians do. They don't here, but so I don't want it to sound like they do.
Well, and I don't think that's our mission, but to lead for the staff to be.
Some things like saying, well, of course we have space, all libraries, of course we have collections.
I'm asking if she's got mine.
Given the world now, of course we have technology, of course we have staff. So those things don't really need to be said as much as it's more like what's the slogan, what's the banner, not what are the things that everybody knows.
It's like create or participate or collaborate.
You've used the word energy that creates.
Okay, why don't we
events that create
reconvene
energy.
as a whole group and debrief our
And
mission,
love of
statement
learning
discussions.
and inspiration to do their own thing.
So if everybody wants to go back to their seat this time, that would be great.
Are you okay?
Actually, I ran the ER in Boston with me.
So Beth, do you want to summarize your discussion for us?
Sure, we've got, again, some words, and let me get to a couple of different thoughts here.
Sure.
Okay, first, we do like the current mission statement very, very much.
Okay.
So a couple things we're trying to get at. One is that the library improves literacy for its patrons. And again, if you're looking at populations, we can go specifically for children, immigrants, and then literally everybody else, because everyone can improve their literacy wherever their education level is. But you can go to a couple specific areas as well. The library offers safe meeting space for the expression of diverse ideas. The library is a protector and a dispenser of history and heritage. Okay, and some of our archive functions. The library is a repository of collections. Then, this takes some explanation, but I really like this. The library has, so the visual is, there's a tip jar at the circulation desk because the community is invested in the library's viability. So they appreciate the library for what it offers, and they want to support the library.
Yes.
And so basically this could be in the form of, donation. So it's just kind of voting with your dollars.
Yeah.
So we want to keep you viable because you are so integral to the community. And then we also have the library, we have this reflective of the community. I think we didn't quite finish that one. And then one more that was just mine was just the library provides hands-on learning experiences. And then my examples are all, whether it's tech training or the maker lab or kits to be checked out, but you can actually have some physical learning experiences. Did I miss?
Yeah, but that expands beyond just hands-on, like the library has connections with every type of learning style.
Yes.
And really it's one of those places where through your entire lifespan that you can have those hands-on things.
Yeah, trying to get
great.
Anything that we were again ranging pretty far around.
Yeah, anything else from that group? Did that capture your discussion pretty well?
We did.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, Chris, what did you guys talk about?
We're going to be free. I'm going to be short.
All right.
Events and activities that create energy.
Ah. Create energy, okay.
And the other one would be freedom of expression.
All right. And what did your group think about the current mission statement? Did you have a discussion about that?
It's pretty mechanical.
Mechanical, okay.
It lists everything that we...
Yes.
But it's mechanical.
Utilitarian.
It's okay.
It didn't have glue or communication in it.
Ah, needs glue.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, anything else from this group?
I think that's it.
Okay.
A lot of it sort of overlapped with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
like what they
For
said.
sure. What was interesting is at a certain point you were both kind of having the same discussion but using very different words, which I thought was really interesting. Being the butterfly between the two groups. Okay, so I'm also going to leave you unsatisfied here because we're not going to go any further. Thank you for this great input. This will go back to the process team. I want Chris's notes and Beth's notes so I can have those compiled. Beth is still furiously writing. Thank you.
There we go.
Thank you. Okay, so next up. So yeah, this goes back to our process team. They'll start to put some thoughts together. We won't look at this again until August. Really, our next step is to look at the learning and to say, okay, so we've had some discussions. We've gotten community input. We looked at all these demographics. We looked at other plans that are going on in the community. Does this change the discussion that we're having? How does this inform where we go next? And really, it's at that retreat session that will really start to put some bones on the structure of this plan. Any questions or final thoughts before we wrap up this session?
I want to see the other notes.
The other notes, the vision
The
notes?
vision notes.
Okay, I've got them
We have
done.
time.
Yeah, okay. And we'll also type these back up and give them back to you, just so you know what happens with them, so you won't lose them completely. But I'll post them on the wall.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's see. Bylaws. Here, bylaws, so I'm guessing. You guys need a marker? All right. Here.
We'll find out.
You're already stealing stuff.
I know, you just got here. I'm losing stuff. Okay, look this one.
I just asked a motion to. How did we?
So is there anything that anyone wants to remove?
Okay, that's right. Okay, moving into the action items, is there any item on the consent agenda that somebody had questions or wants removed? If I hear nothing, do I hear a motion to?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Okay, the first item for action tonight is the vote on the Board of Trustees, Secretary, Treasurer Secretary. And as you know, we're having a vacancy, and right now the nominating committee has nominated Barbara Bennett. So can I do it by a voice vote, do you think? Or do we have to have ballot? Do you know?
I think we can do voice vote. I think we've done the past.
Okay, let's plan it by voice vote in my objects. Barbara Bennett has been nominated. All those in favor, please not say.
Motion.
Yes,
Need a
motion,
motion.
yeah. You have a motion, but
Oh.
that's the motion.
So I think it needs
Is there a
second.
motion?
Second.
Yeah.
Because actually, the nominating committee would have presented that as a motion.
Right, exactly. And then, so I thought the voice vote is us saying aye after the motion's presented, rather than an actual written.
I don't think you need
yeah.
a second, Chris.
Yeah.
If it comes from.
And is there a second then?
Sure, second.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Very good. Okay, the revised general benefit policy. This has to do with
FMLA.
yeah, FMLA. I couldn't think of the letters. And it is urgent. We're being, I hope you've read it and have some idea what we're talking about.
Move approval.
Yeah.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
May I please have your attention?
Nope.
The
Okay.
Urbana Free Library will
Approved.
close in 30 minutes.
You have our attention.
Patrons who wish to apply for or renew library cards
10.3
should come
isn't
to the
ready. I
circulation
don't know
desk
that we didn't pull that,
in
I'm
the
sorry.
next 15 minutes.
10.3 isn't ready. The city, that's the one that the city needed more
Oh,
time on.
okay.
So I'm sorry that.
So just remove it.
Yes.
Move
Okay.
the table. it?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. So I can't move that. but-
No, you moved to table.
Move the table.
Okay. Till
Second.
next meeting, you want a time?
Okay.
Celeste, you want a time on it?
Next meeting.
To the next meeting?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Is there a second to
Yeah,
that?
Sheree seconded.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Good. Budget revision. Celeste, what do you have?
I provided you a chart.
Yeah.
The departments have given me a couple of suggestions to move money around within their department in a couple of cases. And then Eleanor expects more expenses because the cafe's been selling more. So we've added revenue and income to go with each other. And then having received a grant, we want to show the grant as income and show the extra spending as expenses. So everything is, no overall change. Everything at balanced up to zero is what I'm trying to say. Yes.
Celeste, how does this relate to, we had a conversation in passing the other day about, you said the city wasn't ready. Am I making this up?
This is for this fiscal year that we're
Okay.
in right now.
Thank you.
Fiscal 19.
Okay, got it.
Do I have a motion to approve the revised version of the budget?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, that takes care of that. Resolution,
Ayes have it. Motion carries. You need to say the motion carries.
didn't I say it?
I didn't hear you.
Oh, the motion carried. Thank you, John, you're just, oh.
A pain, is that what you're trying to say?
No,
No.
not at all. The resolution to thank Jared for his services.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Too bad
Passed,
you're not here.
approved. Resolution for the integrated agreement with the media productions for $1,800 to keep the cameras rolling. Any questions? Is there a motion?
Yeah, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any concern, has it been worked into the revised budget? Because I didn't look at that.
You haven't seen a revised budget yet because you will see a revised budget next month because the city's still working on some pieces.
So that 1,800 is being worked into that.
Right, and so we do have a line for professional expenses, so it could be that when we look at how much we've already set aside, that this could just sit and be part of that, or it could be that we want to allocate a little extra money.
Okay.
And so it's not just $1,800, it's at the particular price, $1,800 if we just have library board meetings, but if there were a separate meeting, for example.
that's right.
If you had a separate
That's right.
retreat, for example, there would be an additional cost for that.
Yeah.
But if everything stays as the 12 normal meetings. So it's the agreement to have the services and what the terms of the services are. That's what the intergovernment agreement's for.
So the resolution does not have an amount in it then? Or does?
If it's just the 12 normal meetings, it'll be $1,800, but this again sets out the structure by which, let's say one meeting went 4 hours, that they may charge us a little bit more for that, or again, an additional meeting.
Okay.
There would be an additional cost for an additional meeting.
Any further discussion or questions? All those in, well, I guess we have to have a motion, don't we?
We did already.
To approve it.
We did already.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Next item.
Motion carries.
Motion carried.
Yes. Right.
Keep me honest.
We try.
I know. Next item is the board bylaws. Barbara, I'd like for you to address this.
I certainly don't mind discussing it, but I'm looking at term limits is one, and the other thing I'm looking at is committees and standing committees. And I'm thinking that this might be putting the cart before the horse in terms of our strategic planning. And the other thing I found out last week is that there is a model that the Illinois Library Association is recommending for term limits, and I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Is this newer? Has the Illinois Library Association looked at?
Yeah, apparently it is. Okay. I didn't know. I went, you're kidding. And we're discussing this at our meeting, and I just want to take a look at it.
Because I know when Jeff and, I'm trying to think who his helper.
Student.
Thomas.
Yeah, that's it. And they're doing they were looking at various models of different libraries, and I would have assumed if there was something in Illinois, they probably would have dug that up in their discovery of various models. So it must be new.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't.
So when we look, you did receive the list of all the different libraries that they looked at.
Right.
That we had asked Thomas to look at, and then at the very end, it lists some other places that we looked for reference sources.
Okay.
One of which was the trustees facts file, which is put out by the ILA, which has a chapter on board governance and such, and it talks about the bylaws, and it points you to a particular place on the Secretary of State's website.
That's what.
And so we use that.
Okay.
So if anyone would like to, whatever the board wants to do, they're your bylaws, but these were taken into account when Thomas made the recommendations and when Jeff said, I would like to have us look at these things. So if anyone wants to see what that example is, it does talk about term limits. It lists a place for term limits and talks about a president serving no more than 2 consecutive terms. That's what this says.
Is that the ILA thing? Or?
This is what ILA and the trustee facts file says to look at. There's another thing that the state points us towards. Let me just shift this piece of paper around right here. In 2016, the Illinois State Library put together the Illinois Public Library Trustee Manual. And that has a section, Appendix 1, Sample Board Bylaws, which also addresses term limits. And again, this is on the end of that spreadsheet with all the research. This is one of the resources that were listed for the board to look at if you're interested.
But it doesn't, in other words, what's here, we don't know, I mean, we know what he looked at, they looked at, but we don't know what comes from it. I mean, I don't personally know. I know what they looked at, but I don't know how it.
Sure, so you're saying which ones came from the state, which ones came from other libraries? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Fair enough. Happy to bring that information forward. Absolutely. And happy to look into what ILA has if it's different than these couple of things.
I got to talk to Lisa, this friend of mine who's a public librarian who said, oh, you haven't looked at La-da-da, and I didn't know if I had or not.
Oh, sure.
So.
Chris?
Are there, yes, John.
I honestly don't think this is a library-specific question. I'm interested in seeing what other libraries are doing, but no more so than I'm interested in seeing what other organizations do. I very much believe, because I've done lots and lots of work in these areas, I really believe that it's an organization-specific question, and the dynamic of a particular organization should drive this. And so questions, when we have this ultimate discussion about whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, the kinds of questions that I think we should be asking ourselves is, given the dynamic of the board, the dynamic of volunteers who are waiting in line to be on the board, the importance of institutional memory, these are all variables that I would be influenced by in deciding whether term limits are a good thing or a bad thing. So I just don't, I don't think that it's about what other libraries are doing any more than it's about what other organizations do. So that's what I will be looking at when we discuss this.
One of my concerns, and you hit it there, was the institutional memory. Since I've been on the board, and Jane would say this too, because Jane's been on the board a little longer than I have, we've had tremendous turnover. So it hasn't been a matter of staleness and with new ideas. I don't know that we can say too much about the selection process because that goes through the mayor's office. And we have had lists, and presently there is still names on that list. So it isn't like they aren't considered, but we don't have the selection process to do that. I mean, we can talk to her and she asks us our opinion, but she still makes the decision. So I think those two things kind of play into it in my mind. Other thoughts? I also know that...
I'm just trying to think of the mechanics too. So Barbara, you need to do more discovery. You need to...
I personally do,
You
yes.
personally need to have...
Yes.
John, it sounds like you're ready just to have the general discussion more specific to our culture as far as a library.
Well, whether we do it tonight or whether we do it next time,
Right, and then, yeah, there's just...
fine to keep collecting information, but ultimately, to me, it's about what's best for the particular organization.
And I guess what I'm seeing is we seem to be at the spot now for a number of months. So we had the research done, and then we did have that nice spreadsheet, and I just couldn't remember the particulars. So we have a lot of information at our hands. So I don't want to see us 5 months from now still at this point. So what do we need to get to the discussion that will lead to a decision?
I would say, for me, I would like to wait until after the strategic plan, because I think committee structure, for example, if we want to mandate that a younger person be on the board, I mean, I just think there are things that might come up based on what we find out in the strategic plan, and I would hate to go back to it and revise it again.
Okay. That's a long time. It's fine, but then do...
But I guess my question there would be, is what we've got not working?
Sorry. The board, every 3 years, is supposed to revise its strategic plan. Sorry, wrong word. Bylaws.
Right.
And so that 3 years was up in the fall, November or December or so. And so Jeff wanted to do the deep dive in pieces. So with these different options, some of the options are keep it just the same way that it is, which is certainly an option. And another piece of it is there are some places that the board has indicated they would like to see changes, like being able to approve policy changes within the same month versus having to go the 2 months. And there were a couple of, there were some structural pieces like combine these parts, but there was also like a definition of the secretary pro tempore, which wasn't in here. So again, I'm not pushing any agenda. Jeff is the one that wanted to bring forward some ideas. So.
Well, Celeste, is there any reason we couldn't take it piecemeal?
There isn't a reason. You can amend your bylaws when you want to, and if you were to say generally your date is like a November, December, make whatever changes now, if there are changes you want to agree upon now, and then say, strategic plan is done, it's December, we're going to look at our bylaws. That's an option too. But again, that's up to the board to decide. But I know there are some things that you have said as a board you'd like to see changed. So I just want to bring that part to the table.
I think it would be good to do that one change of allowing things that are unanimous to be done, in one round.
Discussion and action.
Yeah, obviously you don't want to do that for anything controversial or where
and I think
public input might be important or something like that, but just for routine stuff, we should be able to.
And I think John has hit upon it, that there are things that we definitely think should be changed, and that being able to vote on something when it's brought up that meeting and not put it off another month is one that we've all agreed on for a long time. So I think you're suggesting that we piecemeal the action.
Well, some things are probably pretty basic, and they wouldn't be that affected by the strategic planning process.
Like that particular little item.
Yeah.
It wouldn't intersect.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just really want to make sure that that we don't do a whole lot of deep dive until the strategic plan is done.
So
I think
in
it's
all
putting
the,
the cart
in
before
all the
the horse.
bylaws is general, or just more specifically for the term limits section?
I said what I thought. Term limits,
And
committee
committees.
structure.
Committee structure.
And mandate of who needs to be on the board. If we want, I'm not saying we want to do that. I'm saying it might come, I'll give an example. Our group here talked a lot about teens.
Right.
Do we want to say, is there some kind of teen representation? That's just an example.
Sure.
And that it is in the bylaws, which it is in some libraries' bylaws.
Sure. Okay.
That's just my example.
That kind of helps, I might scope the discussion areas, because I was interested in moving along a lot of these other areas, especially the action item one. And that's where thinking, waiting till after the strategic plan, I bet we're gonna have a lot of meetings where it would be advantageous for us to bring up discussion items and then take action on them in the same meeting for, and I hated to wait until
Yeah.
after the strategic plan.
Sounds fine to me.
Okay, cool. All right.
Okay, I think that's where we'll leave it for tonight then, and I think that bring it, I guess, to the next board meeting, then we can do it by, are they numbered sections or what? Is that what we?
Yeah, there are various areas that.
But are they numbered? Can we declare them by?
Sure, well, if we look at the cleaned up copy here, I just have the marked up one, which is.
Are there bylaws online?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're all, they're
by topic.
They're by topic.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. We'll be able to get at that then. Report of the liaison groups, Friends.
Can I ask for clarification?
Yeah, I was going to also.
Okay, so, just so that I'm understanding what I'm bringing for you next month, is this the discussion month? Like, that was the discussion, and next month I'm bringing you the draft that you can vote on, because you've seen drafts. And what I'm hearing is the draft for decision-making includes no changes for term limits, no changes for committee structure, and no changes, because you don't have potential changes for composition of the board, and then next month you would want this under action items? Is that what I'm understanding? Or no?
Sounds right to me.
Are you saying remove those, since those have been discussed as not,
Right, so
they're not in union with that?
We're going to hold those 3 items.
Okay.
In abeyance and have as action items next month the remaining suggested changes.
Or do you want the fresh draft for next month's discussion with a vote in, this would be May, June? So I'm just wanting to know, so we can put it on the agenda correctly, did you want the vote in May or a vote in June? That's all.
With those 3 items that she itemized being reduced, if you want to bring it back in packet form, just ignore those 3 items.
Yes.
And bring the others. Is that?
So to take action on?
To take action on.
To approve those changes to the bylaw?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that, do it?
Good.
Okay.
Got
good.
the clarity.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, great.
Friends, we don't have a representative of Friends, do we now? This may,
Barbara's not here, but the Friends did meet this month. They made over $5,000.
Yeah.
It was $5,200 or $5,400. They were quite pleased with that
Wow,
being their
yeah.
spring sale. It was in the board packet, so
Yeah.
whatever it said in the director's report about the
Yeah.
total was their total.
Yeah.
They were quite pleased. Most of the books either sold or were taken on pre-book day. They did not have that many books to send to Better World Books, so they thought it was a good sale all around.
And the weather was okay, but, yeah.
There were also 3 book sales the first night, that Thursday night. There was the Books for Prisoners book sale, our
Yeah.
book sale, and one other
Right.
institution had a book sale
Yeah.
as well. And so
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
weren't sure how that would impact them, but again, overall, they were quite pleased. And as a quick, sorry, we'll get to administrative reports, I've got a thing.
Okay, Foundation Board meeting is next week, so we don't have a report there, and we don't have anybody reporting from Heartland. Did you have something to add?
I'm happy to provide an update from Illinois Heartland Library
Oh.
System. Currently, Illinois Heartland Library System does have voting open for the Board of Directors. Voting remains open until April 15th, and each library within the Heartland system has a vote. Once voting is closed, there will be one public library representative and 4 public library trustee positions that will be filled. Those individuals will begin a 3-year term on July the 1st. Heartland is also partnering to offer a professional development conference called Reaching Forward South, which is for library professionals south of I-80, because many of the professional development opportunities tend toward the northern part of the state. That will be hosted in May. And then there was a recent Members Matter meeting where libraries gathered to provide updates about programs and initiatives that they're working on in their libraries. And a representative of Carly attended to talk about possible expanded partnerships. Carly is the consortium of academic research libraries in Illinois.
And the person,
Oh, sure. And Sharice, I'm happy to tell you that IHLS is one of 2 large library systems in Illinois. IHLS is the system of libraries that exists in the southern part of the state. The Urbana Free Library is a member of the Illinois Heartland Library System. It is the largest library system geographically in the U.S. and I think in North America, but don't quote me on that.
Wow.
It has over 400 member libraries, and within the Illinois Heartland Library System, there is a consortium called SHARE. We are not a SHARE member, but we are a Heartland member.
Okay, thank you.
and the board member that we're seeking, we do not have to have a board member, but we have had for a number of years, and it's been very beneficial, but it needs to be a trustee from this board if we put somebody on. It cannot be a staff member, right?
So if I could pipe up, what I'd like to say is there are different types of seats that are available on the board of directors. Some of the board of directors members for Heartland are public library staff members, so there is one public library seat that's open right now. It does so happen that nobody from Urbana is on the ballot this time, but it would be possible for a public library staff member to serve in a public library seat. That being said, when we've had a board member, they have filled a different type of seat on Heartland's board, and that's the public library trustee representative position.
Okay, and that's what we've always filled. I didn't realize that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Any recommendation there? Whether we...
I think I've already voted if that's your question. Or is it a different question?
What are you saying?
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you were asking a recommendation for who we would vote for on the ballot or who we would ask to be seated next time nominations come out.
But the ballot is not, has nobody on it from us, and we probably don't know those people. We have no opportunity to put a representative on the council? Or
Not right now. Not this cycle.
Okay, then it's a mute question, isn't it? Okay. That's too bad, because I really feel like we've had Charlie Smythe, and we've had James Quisenberry on, and we've had Jeff on, and Jeff is an officer, in fact, so that's too bad. Okay.
But this gives us time till next year.
Yeah.
When the next elections come up.
It's annual, huh? It's
Yes,
annual.
there are a certain percentage of board seats within Heartland that are up for election every year.
Rotating, okay.
But in terms of, is that a certain percentage of the board is up for election each year, but that isn't necessarily that our putting somebody on the board, is it?
I'm not positive off the top of my head whether next year there would be a public library trustee position up or not.
Check.
But that's something we could look into.
Yeah, that's what we need to know. Okay. Thank you. Administrative report, do you have anything?
I wanted to share that you may or may not know that the Friends have kept until recently their books ready for the book sale in the storage closet. And we've had a request from the teens in the Teen Open Lab to be able to use that as a recording studio in an ongoing way that isn't take it up and set it down, take it up and set it down. So we talked to the friends about could we use that space if we found different spaces to store their books. And they said yes, of course. So the teens are delighted, the closet's cleaned out.
They're gonna record?
Well, and they do, but we have to set it up and the colleagues that I work with that do that work have to set it up and take it down all the time. And so this will save us staff time, and the friends were delighted that they could help support the teens in this way. So it's not set up yet, but shortly. We'll see if it needs a lick of paint or anything like that. But
Does that room get full before a sale?
Well, it won't. We're going to store the books in different closets. Staff have emptied up different storage closets.
I'm saying though, because it means moving books, and that's a convenient. Books would be a very deadening kind of thing in a recording room. That's why I'm asking, how full does it get to be?
Depends on the sale. It can be pretty full that you can't really go in there.
Well, otherwise, I think, I would hate to move books, because this is where the sale is, if they can accommodate them, because books would be a deadening device and a recording room.
Please have your attention.
They absorb sound waves.
Your Urbana Free Library will close in 5
Yeah,
minutes.
because those books are not easy to haul around all the time, and if it's not full, the kids can still use it with the books in it.
Here's the good news. So the books start on the first floor in the friends sorting area,
Yeah.
and then staff or the cleaning staff. So people move them down here, and then on book sale setup, they take them from here and put them out in the closet. The first closet that we're going to fill up is literally just across the hall. So they're still making it from the first floor down here, and it's bringing them here or bringing them here. So we're starting with, again, the closest spaces. And we'll find out what type of deadening we
Yeah,
need.
see what it is.
There's different types of objects or materials that one can put on the wall, and they're going to evaluate what's the sound and the vibe they're looking for. So we're going to give the kids some time to figure out what they're looking for. It may be that the boxes are a really good choice.
I'm sure they would be.
It could
They'd
be egg foam
deadening.
crates. There's a number of
sound.
materials, and they
Yeah.
want to figure that out.
Okay.
So that's
No, go ahead.
that was the big one that we're excited about.
Yeah. Anything else that you're?
That's what I got right now.
I don't know if this is the appropriate place to add it, but I wanted to commend Celeste and the entire staff for the 2 meetings that happened. Is this the time to do this?
Yeah.
I want to commend you all. That made me so proud. I'm going to cry. What you pulled off was just, it gives me goosebumps with the 2 meetings, with the 2 transgendered groups. You performed a public service when one of the groups had been deplatformed in every other space in town. And it just made me feel so good to see our library step up to the plate. I can't say enough. And I know you spoke at the university on Monday, and I'm sure it was terrific. And I know how much emotional work it takes from the entire staff. And I know that probably a lot of people were uncomfortable discussing this at all, and that some had different opinions. And you really pulled off, I don't know what else to say. I'm going to cry.
Well, I'm going to say, on behalf of my colleagues, we could not have done the good work we did without conversations with you.
Oh.
So thank you, Barbara, for giving us the tools we needed to have good conversations and make good decisions.
Good.
Thank you.
So let the rest of us commend all of you. So
It was amazing.
You've done good.
Good.
Okay, I want to announce that anything else? I'm sorry. That the nominating committee will be functional, that will be Barb Bennett and Jane are still nominating committee, and they will be given a commission in next. We announce in April the ballot, so you'll have work.
You announced
And elect in
April the
June.
committee, and May is the ballot, and the election's in June. So it's April right now.
We're a month.
No, you're right on target. You are right on target.
Yeah, okay. I see no other item to come before the board tonight. Does anybody have anything? If not, we're adjourned.